Hey everybody, I'm sure by now you realize that we're doing classes on building different things, since that goes with our theme this year. The class I'm going to do is on building relationships. So Mother Teresa said, I can do things you can't, you can do things I can't. Together we can do great things. So I want you guys to take a minute to think about the different relationships you have in your life. So I'm sure some of the ones you guys are thinking about are your friends, your parents, your siblings. Maybe some of you are thinking about a boyfriend or girlfriend, and some of you might even be thinking about coworkers and your boss. But most importantly, I hope you're thinking about your relationship with God and Jesus. So we're going to start out talking about relationships with friends. I read a quote somewhere that said, friends aren't Hot Pockets. You can't just put them in the microwave for 2 minutes and expect them to be good, which Hot Pockets aren't always great anyway. But like friendships, they take time. You need to take your time and you need to put the work in order to have good friendships. So the best model of friendship in the Bible is between David and Jonathan. So King Saul, who was Jonathan's dad, wanted to kill David because he was jealous that David was going to be anointed by God to replace him as the king of Israel. Jonathan told David of the danger and saved his life. We're going to turn to 1 Samuel 20, verse 4. That's 1 Samuel 20, verse 4. It says, Then Jonathan said to David, Whatever you say, I will do for you. Jonathan was willing to do anything that he could to help David, even if it was meant to go against his dad. And because he knew what his dad was doing was wrong. So we're also going to read 1 Samuel 20, verses 30 to 33. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, You son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, neither you nor your kingdom shall be established. Therefore, send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. Then Jonathan answered Saul, his father, Why should he be put to death? What has he done? But Saul hurled his spear at him to strike him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to put David to death. So Saul got so angry at Jonathan because he knew he was helping David. David was the son of Jesse, in case you guys didn't know. So Jonathan would have been the next in line to become king if David was killed after Saul had died. But instead, he risked his life so that he could save his friend David. David's friendship was more important to Jonathan than even being king. Out of respect, David bowed to Jonathan 3 times, even though it really should have been Jonathan bowing to David because he was going to be king. So in order to have good friendships, you need to be a good friend to others. You need to be encouraging, trustworthy, and forgiving. And you need to be there for your friends like Jonathan was for David. So 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 30 is where we're going to turn next. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33 says, Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. So as I'm sure you guys figured out, you have to be careful what friends you spend your time with, because they can lead us to do things that we wouldn't normally do and that we know are wrong. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12. Ecclesiastes comes right before Song of Solomon. I think it's right after Psalms and Proverbs. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12 says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone, when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, 2 lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. So friends can help lift us up when we're having a hard time. God actually puts certain people and certain friends in your life at different times because he wants them there for a specific reason. He knows that you'll need them there to be by your side with whatever you're going through. So we need to make sure we focus on being intentional with our friendships and we make them stronger as we go through the years, as long as they're good friends. So as you guys get older, I'm not sure if the counselors would agree with me, but I think they will. As you get older, you might have fewer friends, but usually you realize that they're more valuable friendship and you realize who your true and good friends are. So the next friends that we're going to talk about, you might not think are friends, but as you get older, you're also going to realize how good of friends that your parents are to you. And I know you might not like hearing me say that, but they really are important to have. They know what you're dealing with. They've been with you. They know who you are, and they're there for you no matter what. So Colossians 3:20 says, I know we've heard this all the time and we don't like to always hear it as kids, but children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. So we need to obey our parents, not only because it's the right thing to do, but it also pleases the Lord when we do. So we need to make sure that we're listening to our parents and we're respecting them, because that'll actually carry over into our real lives. As you grow older, you're going to need to respect your bosses, even though you might not like what they say, but it's going to make you into the person you need to be. And parents also aren't perfect. I know that some of them think they might be, but they're not. But God chose our family specifically for us. He knew who we would need and what kind of family we would need. And I know some of you out there might not have the best parents or think that you might not. But a lot of us, it gives us a glimpse into God's love and how much He loves us. But it also helps the people who might not have the best parents. They know that they're going to have a perfect parent in heaven someday. And He also gave us that relationship with our parents so that we could understand our relationship with Him. That loving, that kindness, and sometimes He needs to tell us we're wrong too. So Jesus was perfect, and He still had to listen and obey to His parents. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the story, but there's the story when Jesus was 12 years old and His parents were in Jerusalem with Him for Passover. Jesus ended up staying behind when His parents had left, and they didn't realize that He was still there. They went a good day's journey before they realized He wasn't around any of His friends or anything like that. So they then went back to Jerusalem, and it took them 3 days to find Jesus. He ended up that He was in the temple listening and asking questions of the teachers because He wanted to get to know more about His Father in heaven. But Luke 2:51 Luke 2:51 says, "And He went down with them and came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. And His mother treasured up all these things in her heart." So even though He was in the temple, He was learning about God, He still knew that He needed to go back with His parents because that was the right thing to do. And He needed to obey them because He knew that was the law. So another sometimes rough relationship is what you have with your siblings. I know I have a great brother, but we still fought sometimes. And some of you might not have the best relationship with your siblings, but have you ever wondered why God gave us siblings? We know that He has a perfect plan and that He has everything figured out just for us. So let's look at Proverbs 17:17. Proverbs 17:17 says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." So siblings are born to have our back in the hard times. They're there to be behind us, even though sometimes they might be the annoyance. In the hard times, they're really there. They teach us when we're growing up how to do things like resolve conflict, like sharing, how to handle miscommunication, and how to put other people's needs before our own. And that's something we need to remember in our everyday lives as well. There's lots of different sets of siblings in the Bible. I know a lot of you know the story of Joseph. His brothers actually took him and sold him into slavery because they didn't like him. And he ended up saving them from starvation. And then there was Miriam, who was Moses' sister, and she ended up following baby Moses in the basket down the river so that she could come save him later on to do what he needed to later on in life. And then Moses also had a great brother named Aaron. Moses didn't speak well, so he had Aaron because Moses heard so much from God, but he was not good at telling other people about it. So he basically had Aaron as his spokesperson. And Aaron even held up Moses' arms during a whole battle when he had to keep his arms up, and then they were winning because that's what God had told him. If you keep your arms raised, I'll help you in the battle. If your arms fall, then you're going to be losing. So Aaron stood there and held Moses' arms up. So as some of you guys might be thinking, some siblings are polar opposites. So we have one set of siblings in the Bible that are polar opposites in the story of Mary and Martha. Mary wanted to sit and listen to Jesus' teaching, but Martha got mad at her because she wanted her to do work because they had guests there and there was cleaning and there was cooking and there was lots of things to be done. and she wasn't helping at all. So they were polar opposites, but yet a little bit later up in the New Testament, it talks about how Mary and Martha came because their brother Lazarus had died, and they knew that Jesus was the only one that could help them. So they band together when the time was tough, and they got there and they talked to Jesus, and he healed their brother. So siblings are created for love and friendships. They get to see us at our worst, but they also see us at our best, and they love us both ways. People will also notice if we get along with our siblings, and that's a good way to show God's love to others. When we might not really feel like loving them, we still need to try our best to love them. So another type of relationships that you guys might be in, I'm not sure if you're old enough or not yet, but you guys might have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. The Bible really does not specifically talk about dating, but we need to make sure that we're doing everything for God's glory, like it says in 1 Corinthians 10:31. So 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God." So to have a healthy relationship, we need to be healthy as a person on our own first and be more like Christ. And remember that everything we do needs to be done for God. So 2 Corinthians 6:14 and 15, I should say, says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? What accord has Christ with Belial? Or what portion does a believer share with an unbeliever?" We need to remember that we need to connect with people that are in the same spiritual mindset as we are. As Christians, we really need to find another Christian because that's the best way to have ourselves be encouraged and have somebody who's going to understand what we believe. So we need, like I said, we need to be with someone who's encouraging to us. But not only do we have to find someone who's encouraging us, we need to be willing to encourage that other person. And that's a big deal in relationships. You both need to be there for each other. And that's what we need to do to build each other up and also grow closer together. We also need to make sure that we don't get into a relationship too deep, too fast, both physically and emotionally. We need to make sure that we're not getting completely invested in something too soon. We need to make sure we have someone that has the same mindset as us. And we also need to guard our hearts from the people that might not be the greatest for us. The healthier both individuals are emotionally and spiritually, the healthier that relationship will be when they come together. So I'm not sure how many of you out there have jobs, but I'm sure someday you will. And we need to have a good relationship with our coworkers and our bosses. So we're going to turn to Colossians 3:23 and 24. That's Colossians 3:23 and 24. It says, "Whatever you do, work heartily and for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ." So sometimes as you're working in jobs, you might have people that you don't agree with or people that just want to do the bare minimum just to get by. But we need to remember that we're always working for the Lord in everything that we do. So we need to make sure we work hard even if we don't agree with what somebody's doing or if our coworker next to us is doing nothing. Sometimes people are difficult to get along with, but we also need to remember that they're coming from different walks of life and they might have something going on in their life that you don't know about and that might be causing them to act the way that they do. We need to make sure we're shining our light at our jobs so that so people can see God in our lives and see the love that we're giving out. So like I said, the most important relationships that we always need to be building on is our relationship with God and Jesus. So he is also our example of how we need to have relationships with others. So I know a lot of times we just think of God as, oh, he's a being, he's just kind of there, but he also is a person. He's not just a theological concept. God understands what it's like to be tempted. Jesus was tempted by Satan for 40 days. He's full of encouragement and wisdom because he's been through things. He also can be a source of strength for us when we're having a hard time. He's always there. No matter what's going on, you just reach out and he's there. He's alive and he wants to be close to us. He wants to make his home in our heart. So communication is the key to any good relationship. So like our communication with our friends or with our parents or with our siblings, we also need to have an open line of communication with God. So we need to be praying and to be in constant communication with him. And if we're the ones that are initiating the conversation, God will always respond to us. We might not always like his response, but he's always there to respond and to be there with us. So another part of growing our relationship with him would be reading our Bibles. So I read that in the New Testament, the writers of the New Testament reference the Old Testament 855 times. 855 times. Remember that. That's a lot of times that they're looking back. They knew the scriptures, so that helped them to be able to be closer to God and to be the ones he chose to write the New Testament that we would read many, many thousands of years later. We need to also make sure that we're connecting with other believers in order to encourage our relationship with God. It gives us a deeper understanding when we study with other people, and the Bible says that it pleases the Lord when we're together. So Revelations 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him and he with me." So Jesus knocks, and all we have to do is the simple job of opening that door for him so that we can keep growing our relationship closer and closer and closer to him. So now that we've talked about the most important relationship, we'll finish up this class. Relationships are dynamic and they're going to change in time. Any kind of relationship that you have. They can grow deeper or they can fall away. So we need to decide which relationships we need to nurture and which relationships we need to build on so that they can grow bigger and better. But we also need to realize that sometimes there's certain relationships that we need to just wither away because they're not good for us. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for these campers, and just thank you that we can do this even though we can't be together at this time. And just please give us all a great week and just help us to learn lots through the different classes and through the different activities we're doing. And just please give us all a blessing and that we can get together in September. We love you. Amen. Have a great day, guys.